Natalie Rivers pressed her trembling hand against her chest, willing her heart to stop racing. Her first day at Westbrook Industries was supposed to be exciting, not terrifying. The sleek glass building towered above the city, a monument to success and innovation. She had worked so hard to land this junior consultant position, and now she was going to ruin everything because of her stupid anxiety. The elevator doors opened on the 20th floor, revealing a maze of polished corridors and minimalist decor. Everything screamed expensive and untouchable. Natalie clutched her leather portfolio tighter, her palms sweating despite the perfectly controlled air conditioning. She was supposed to meet her supervisor in conference room B, but the hallways all looked identical. The wrong door, her breathing became shallow as panic crept up her spine. Not now, please not now. Natalie had dealt with anxiety attacks since college, but she thought she had them under control. The pressure of starting this dream job combined with running late after the subway delay had triggered every nerve in her body. She needed to find a bathroom. Fast. Turning a corner, Natalie spotted a restroom sign and practically ran toward it. She pushed through the heavy door without thinking, splashed cold water on her face, and leaned against the marble counter. The bathroom was pristine, all black granite and chrome fixtures. Definitely fancier than she expected. Taking deep breaths, she slowly felt the panic subsiding. Her reflection stared back at her, mascara slightly smudged, auburn hair escaping its professional bun. She fixed herself up, smoothed down her navy blazer, and turned toward the exit. That was when she heard the footsteps. Heavy, deliberate footsteps. Male footsteps. Face to face, Natalie froze as a tall figure emerged from one of the stalls. Man wore an impeccably tailored charcoal suit, his dark hair perfectly styled. He had sharp features, intense gray eyes, and an expression that shifted rapidly from surprise to disbelief to something resembling fury. They stared at each other for 3 full seconds. Then they both started talking at once. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, his voice deep and commanding. "I'm so sorry. I didn't realize," Natalie stammered, backing toward the door. The man's eyes narrowed. "This is the executive washroom. How did you even get past security? Executive washroom?" There was no sign. Natalie felt her face burning with embarrassment. "I just started today and I got turned around and you needed to invade the private facilities." Crossed his arms, and Natalie couldn't help noticing how the gesture emphasized his broad shoulders. It was an accident.
I didn't
See any signs? And I was having a panic attack? And everything looks the same on this floor? The realization something flickered in his expression. A panic attack? Natalie nodded miserably. First day nerves. "I know this looks terrible. I promise I'm not some creep who breaks into executive bathrooms on purpose." The man studied her for a long moment, and Natalie felt herself shrinking under his gaze. He was devastatingly handsome, which somehow made this whole situation even more humiliating. Of course, she would have her worst moment in front of someone who looked like he stepped out of a fashion magazine. "What department?" he asked curtly. "Marketing. I'm a junior consultant. Today's literally my first day, and I'm all ready." She gestured helplessly at the situation. "Late," he finished. "You're late and lost." Yes. Natalie wanted the floor to swallow her whole. He glanced at his watch. A sleek silver piece that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe. "Conference room B is 2 corridors east, then north. The general restrooms are marked with blue signs, not black." "Thank you," Natalie whispered, moving toward the door. As she turned back, "Rivers? Natalie Rivers? Miss Rivers?" His tone was formal, distant. "In the future, pay attention to your surroundings. This building has protocols for a reason." Natalie nodded and fled, her cheeks burning. She didn't look back. The meeting room shocked. 20 minutes later, after finally locating conference room B and apologizing profusely for her tardiness, Natalie settled into her seat among the other new consultants. Her supervisor, Margaret Chen, was reviewing the day's agenda when the door opened again. Natalie glanced up, and her heart stopped. The man from the bathroom walked in, commanding immediate attention from everyone in the room. He moved with quiet authority, his presence filling the space. Margaret immediately stood straighter. Mr. Westbrook, we weren't expecting you at orientation. Westbrook. Julian Westbrook. The CEO, Natalie, wanted to disappear. She had just yelled at the CEO in the executive bathroom. On her first day, this was a nightmare. Julian's eyes swept the room and landed directly on her. For a brief moment, something almost like amusement crossed his features before his expression returned to professional neutrality. I wanted to welcome our new team members personally, he said smoothly. We have ambitious projects ahead, and fresh perspectives are valuable. The introduction, his gaze returned to Natalie. Let's go around the room. Tell me your name and what you hope to contribute to Westbrook Industries. One by one, the other. Consultants introduced themselves with practiced confidence. Natalie's turn approached with dreadful inevitability. Natalie Rivers, she managed, keeping her voice steady. I specialized in consumer behavior analysis at Columbia. I hope to bring innovative approaches to understanding market trends and customer engagement. Julian tilted his head slightly. Innovative approaches. How refreshing. Tell me, Miss Rivers, do you always take such unconventional routes to problem solving? The room went silent. Everyone sensed the underlying tension, but couldn't understand it. Natalie met his eyes directly. I believe the best solutions come from seeing situations from unexpected angles, Mr. Westbrook. Something shifted in his expression. Interesting philosophy. I look forward to seeing it in practice, he continued. Around the room, but Natalie barely heard the rest of the introductions. Her heart pounded as she processed what just happened. Julian Westbrook was either going to fire her immediately or make her life completely miserable. As the meeting concluded, Julian paused by the door. Miss Rivers, a word. Here it comes, Natalie. Thought, following him into the corridor while her new colleagues whispered behind her. Julian turned, his expression unreadable. That was quite an introduction to Westbrook Industries. I apologize again, Mr. Westbrook. If you want me to resign, resign. He almost smiled. The building layout is deliberately confusing. Security measure? Natalie blinked. So I'm not fired? Not today. His gray eyes held hers. But Miss Rivers, I expect excellence from everyone here, especially those who claim to offer innovative approaches. You'll have it, Natalie said firmly, finding her confidence again. Good. He turned to leave, then paused. And Miss Rivers, the executive washroom is off limits. Use the blue-marked facilities. As he walked away, Natalie could have sworn she heard him chuckle softly. Maybe this disaster wouldn't destroy her career after all. Maybe it was just the beginning of something she couldn't yet imagine. 3 weeks had passed since the bathroom incident, and Natalie had almost convinced herself that Julian Westbrook had forgotten about her entirely. She kept her head down, worked hard on her assignments, and made sure to use only the blue-marked restrooms. Life at Westbrook Industries had fallen into a comfortable rhythm. Then Margaret called her into the office on a Friday afternoon. Natalie, congratulations. You've been selected for the Summit project. Margaret's smile was tight, almost sympathetic. Natalie's stomach flipped. The Summit project was legendary at Westbrook Industries. It was Julian's personal initiative, a high-stakes campaign to revolutionize how the company approached sustainable technology. Being selected was either a massive opportunity or a career-ending test. When do I start? Natalie asked, trying to sound confident. Monday morning, 8 sharp. Mr. Westbrook leads the team meetings himself. Margaret paused. Natalie, he specifically requested you. The words hung in the air like a challenge. The first team. Meeting Monday morning arrived with gray skies and the promise of rain. Natalie, dressed in her most professional outfit, fitted black dress with a gray blazer, and arrived at the executive conference room 15 minutes early. She was the first one there, besides Julian, who stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out over the city with his hands in his pockets. Punctual, he said without turning around. That's a good start. I learned from my mistakes, Mr. Westbrook, he turned then, and Natalie caught a glimpse of something in his expression. Approval, maybe? Or curiosity? We'll see. This project will test everything you think you know about marketing and innovation. Other team members filtered in. There were 5 of them total, all seasoned professionals except Natalie. She recognized Daniel Park, a senior analyst known for his ruthless efficiency, and Victoria Cross, A brilliant strategist who had been with the company for 8 years, Julian began the meeting without preamble. We have 6 months to launch a campaign that will position Westbrook Industries as the leader in ethical technology. Our competitors are watching. Our investors are nervous. Failure is not acceptable. He outlined the project scope with precise detail. Every word was carefully chosen, every expectation crystal clear. Natalie took notes furiously, already feeling overwhelmed by the magnitude of the task. Miss Rivers. Julian's gray eyes were fixed on her. You claim to offer innovative approaches. I want a preliminary analysis of consumer perception gaps by Wednesday. Focus on the demographic most resistant to sustainable technology Wednesday. That's 2 days' problem? His tone was challenging. Natalie straightened her spine. No problem. I'll have it ready. Good. Meeting adjourned. Late nights the next 48 hours were brutal. Natalie barely slept, diving deep into research, surveys, and data analysis. She discovered something interesting, buried in the numbers. The resistant demographic was not who everyone assumed. It was not older consumers stuck in their ways. It was middle-income families who wanted sustainable options. It felt priced out and deceived by greenwashing. She built her presentation around this insight, crafting a strategy that focused on accessibility and transparency rather than luxury and exclusivity. Wednesday morning came too quickly. Natalie stood before the team, her hands steady, despite her nerves, and presented her findings. The room was silent as she clicked through her slides, explaining the research methodology and strategic implications. When she finished, Victoria spoke first. This contradicts everything we've been planning. Yes! Because we've been planning for the wrong audience, Natalie said firmly. We've been trying to impress people who are already converted. We need to reach the people who want to care but don't think they can afford to. Daniel frowned. That's a risky pivot. Julian had been quiet throughout the presentation, his expression unreadable. Now he leaned forward, his fingers steepled under his chin. It's brilliant. The room reacted with surprise. Julian rarely gave direct praise. We restructured the entire campaign around this insight, he continued. Miss Rivers, you're a lead analyst on consumer strategy. Work directly with me on refining the approach. Always. Natalie's heart soared and plummeted simultaneously. Working directly with Julian Westbrook meant constant scrutiny, impossible standards, and no margin for error. It also meant proving herself at the highest level. Thank you, Mr. Westbrook. I won't disappoint you. His eyes met hers across the table. I know you won't. The corporate gala 2 months into the project, Westbrook Industries hosted its annual charity gala. Attendance was mandatory for the Summit project team. Natalie borrowed a dress from her roommate, a flowing emerald gown that made her feel like someone else entirely. Someone who belonged in rooms filled with crystal chandeliers and champagne fountains. The ballroom was magnificent, gold accents and live orchestra music. Natalie felt out of place immediately, clutching her small purse like a lifeline. She spotted Victoria across the room, elegant in midnight blue, chatting easily with board members. You look uncomfortable. Natalie turned to find Julian beside her, devastatingly handsome in a black tuxedo. Her breath caught. She had grown accustomed to seeing him in business suits, but this was different. This was dangerous. I don't usually attend events like this, she admitted. Neither do I, not really. He handed her a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. I attend because it's expected. Natalie accepted the glass but didn't drink. You're the CEO. Everything you do is watched. Exactly. What? Something dark flickered in his expression. It's exhausting. Before she could respond, a wealthy donor approached. Pulling Julian into conversation about investments and market projections, Natalie started to slip away, but Julian caught her wrist gently. Stay, he said quietly, so she stayed. Listening to business talk she barely understood. Watching Julian navigate the social minefield with practiced ease, but she noticed things others might miss. The tension in his shoulders, the way his smile never quite reached his eyes. The careful distance he maintained from everyone. The balcony confession. An hour later, Natalie needed air. She found a balcony overlooking the city, the cool night breeze, a relief after the stuffiness inside. She leaned against the railing, letting the sounds of the party fade behind her, hiding. She turned to find Julian stepping onto the balcony. Taking a break? You? Same. He joined her at the railing, and they stood in comfortable silence for a moment. The city sparkled below them, 1,000 lights against the darkness. Can I ask you something personal, Mr. Westbrook? Julian, he corrected. We're not in the office, Julian. His name felt strange on her tongue, intimate. Why did you choose me for the summit project? I'm the least experienced person on that team. He was quiet for so long, she thought he might not answer. Then, because you see things others don't. That day in the conference room, when you explained your perspective on innovative approaches, I saw something rare. Genuine insight, not rehearsed corporate speak. In the bathroom incident, Natalie couldn't help asking. Julian's lips curved into an almost smile. That showed me you're human, fallible, real. This company is full of people trying to be perfect. It's refreshing to work with someone who isn't afraid to make mistakes. Natalie's heart beat faster. This felt like more than professional recognition. This felt personal, Julian. Can I ask something else? Go ahead. Why do you look so sad sometimes? Even when you're succeeding, there's something in your eyes. She paused, like you're carrying something heavy. His expression shuddered immediately, walls slamming back into place. That's not appropriate, I know. I'm sorry. Natalie touched his arm without thinking. I noticed things too. Julian looked down at her hand on his sleeve, then back at her face. In his eyes, she saw pain so raw, it made her chest ache. I lost someone, he said finally, his voice rough. 3 years ago. Her name was Catherine. We were engaged. Car accident. She died instantly. Julian. Natalie's voice broke. I'm so sorry. Everyone says that? Sorry, like words can change anything. He pulled away from her touch, gripping the balcony railing. I built this company into what it is because I had nothing else. Work became everything. It had to be. That's not living. That's surviving. Maybe survival is all some of us can manage. He turned to face her fully. You want to know why I'm sad? Because I forgot how to be anything else. I forgot what it feels like to want something beyond the next quarterly report. The vulnerability in his confession made Natalie brave. She stepped closer, close enough to feel the warmth radiating from him. Maybe you just need someone to remind you. Julian's hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. This is a terrible idea, probably, Natalie whispered. You work for me? There are rules. Professional boundaries, I know. If anyone saw us, but he didn't finish the thought. Instead, he leaned down and kissed her. The kiss was gentle at first, questioning. Then Natalie's hand slid up his chest, and something broke loose inside both of them. The kiss deepened, became urgent. 3 months of unspoken tension pouring out in one moment when they finally broke apart. Both were breathing hard. Can't do this, Julian said. But he didn't let her go. I know, Natalie repeated. This could ruin your career. I don't care. Julian rested his forehead against hers. You should. I won't be the reason you lose everything you've worked for. Then what do we do? Natalie asked. I don't know. He kissed her again, softer this time. But I know I haven't felt alive in 3 years until tonight. The sound of the balcony door opening made them spring apart. Victoria stood in the doorway, her expression unreadable. Julian. The mayor wants to speak with you. I'll be right there. His voice was perfectly composed. Showing no trace of what had just happened, Victoria's eyes flickered between them. Calculating, before she disappeared back inside, Julian stepped away from Natalie. Straightening his tie, this conversation never happened. Julian. Not mine? He looked at her one more time, his expression tortured. Go back inside separately. Wait 5 minutes. Then he was gone, leaving Natalie alone on the balcony with the taste of him still on her lips and the certainty that everything had just changed. Monday morning arrived with uncomfortable tension. Natalie sat in the conference room, pretending to review documents while her mind replayed the kiss over and over. Julian entered exactly at 8, his expression carved from stone. He didn't look at her once during the entire meeting. The sustainability campaign launches in 3 months, he he announced to the team. We need to finalize vendor partnerships and secure media placements. Miss Rivers, I need the demographic reports updated with current data. Miss Rivers. Not Natalie. The formality stung. Of course, Mr. Westbrook. The meeting continued with painful professionalism. Daniel presented logistics. Victoria outlined media strategy, and Julian responded with his usual precision. But Natalie felt the weight of unspoken words pressing down on the room. When everyone filed out, Julian called after her. Miss Rivers, stay behind. Her pulse quickened as the door closed behind the last team member. They were alone. Julian turned to face her, his jaw tight. What happened at the gala was a mistake. It cannot happen again. The words hit like physical blows. A mistake. Yes. I crossed a line that should never be crossed. You're my employee. There are policies, ethics, professional standards. I was there too, Julian. I kissed you back. Which is exactly why this is dangerous. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration bleeding through his controlled exterior. Natalie, I could destroy your career. One whisper of favoritism, one accusation of impropriety, and everything you've worked for disappears. So we just pretend it meant nothing. His eyes met hers, filled with something that looked like anguish. It has to mean nothing. Natalie stood, gathering her dignity around her like armor. Fine, nothing happened. We're perfectly professional. Is that all, Mr. Westbrook? Yes. She walked to the door, then paused without turning back. For what it's worth, you were wrong about one thing. It wasn't a mistake. It was the most honest moment I've had since I started working here. She left before he could respond. The crisis emerged 2 weeks past in strained professionalism. Natalie threw herself into work, producing analysis after analysis, refining strategies until they gleamed. Julian maintained his distance, communicating through emails and brief meetings. The rest of the team noticed the shift but said nothing. Then disaster struck. Natalie was working late when her phone buzzed with an urgent message from Daniel. Conference room. Now. Emergency. She arrived to find the entire team gathered, faces grim. Julian stood at the head of the table, his expression darker than she'd ever seen. We have a problem, he said without preamble. Our primary supplier for the sustainable tech components has been exposed for using conflict minerals. The news breaks tomorrow morning. Victoria swore softly. That destroys the entire campaign premise. We've been promoting ethical sourcing for months. Exactly. Julian's voice was cold with fury. We've been deceived. The question now is how we respond. Daniel leaned forward. We deny knowledge, cut ties immediately, and distance ourselves from the supplier. Standard crisis management. That makes us look incompetent, Natalie heard herself saying. All eyes turned to her. We've been promoting transparency and accountability. If we claim ignorance, we lose all credibility. What do you suggest? Julian asked, his tone neutral but his eyes sharp. Natalie stood, moving to the whiteboard. We own it completely. We admit the supplier deceived us, explain our vetting process and where it failed, then announce immediate action. Not just cutting ties, but implementing new verification systems across the entire supply chain. We turn a crisis into proof of our commitment. The room was silent. Okay, that's corporate suicide, Daniel said flatly. Admitting failure publicly? The board will never approve. The board will approve what I tell them to approve, Julian said quietly. His eyes were locked on Natalie. Keep going. Her heart raced as she outlined the strategy. A public statement taking full responsibility, an independent audit of all suppliers, a fund for communities affected by conflict mining, transparency reports published quarterly. We don't just fix this problem, she concluded. We set a new industry standard. We prove that ethical business means actually being ethical, even when it's hard. Victoria was nodding slowly. It's risky, but it could work. If we control the narrative from the start. Julian was quiet for a long moment, his fingers steepled under his chin. Finally, he spoke. We do it. Miss Rivers, draft the public statement. Victoria, coordinate with PR. Daniel, I need a complete supplier audit by morning. We have 12 hours before this story breaks. The team scattered into action. Natalie returned to her desk, her hands trembling with adrenaline. This was the biggest moment of her career. It was happening during the worst crisis the company had faced. The long night towers blurred together. Natalie drafted and redrafted the statement, each word carefully chosen. Around midnight, Julian appeared at her desk with 2 cups of coffee. "How's it coming?" he asked, setting 1 cup beside her laptop. "Almost done. I want to make sure the tone is right. Humble but strong." He pulled up a chair and read over her shoulder. His presence made her hyper-aware of every breath, every movement. When his hand brushed hers, reaching for the mouse, electricity shot through her. "This paragraph," he said, pointing. "It's good, but it needs more emotion. We're not just admitting a mistake. We're expressing genuine remorse." They worked together, refining the language, debating word choices. Somewhere around 2 in the morning, Natalie made a comment that made Julian laugh. Actually laugh, not the polite chuckle he used in meetings. "What?" she asked, smiling despite her exhaustion. "You just compared corporate ethics to making a souffle. It was absurd and somehow perfect. I haven't slept in 20 hours. Absurd is all I have left." Julian's expression softened. "You're brilliant, Natalie. This strategy, this statement, all of it. You've saved this company tonight. We're not saved yet. We will be. Because of you." He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was so tender it made her chest ache. "Julian, what are we doing?" "Something incredibly stupid," he murmured, but he didn't pull away. "Something I can't seem to stop myself from doing. Maybe you should stop fighting it. If I stop fighting it, I put you at risk. Your career, your reputation, stop deciding what's best for me." Natalie turned to face him fully. "I'm an adult. I can make my own choices about what risks I'm willing to take. And if this destroys everything, then we'll rebuild." She took his hand. "Julian, I know you're scared. After losing Catherine, I understand why letting someone in feels terrifying. But living behind walls isn't living at all." Something cracked in his expression. "I can't lose someone else. I barely survived it the first time. It won't lose me. I'm not going anywhere." Julian pulled her close, holding her like she might disappear. They stayed like that for a long moment, drawing strength from each other. Then he kissed her forehead gently. "Finish the statement. I need to make some calls." The press conference was scheduled for 9 in the morning. Natalie stood backstage, watching through a monitor as Julian took the podium. He looked commanding in his navy suit, every inch the powerful CEO. But she could see the tension in his shoulders that others would miss. He began speaking, delivering the statement they had crafted together, admitting the failure, explaining the corrective action, committing to transparency. His voice was strong, unwavering, even as he acknowledged mistakes. The reporters erupted with questions. Julian fielded them with practiced skill, never defensive, always honest. It was a masterclass in crisis management. Backstage, Victoria appeared beside Natalie. "He's doing well." "He is. You wrote that statement." It wasn't a question. Natalie glanced at her. "The team collaborated. Don't play modest with me." Victoria's expression was calculating. "I've worked with Julian for 8 years. I know when something has changed." "And you changed him." Natalie's stomach dropped. "I don't know what you mean. He's been dead inside since Catherine died. Walking, talking, building this empire, but not really living. Then you showed up." Victoria paused. "Be careful, Natalie. The board watches everything. Relationships between executives and subordinates are complicated. There's no relationship, please. I saw you on that balcony. And I see how he looks at you when he thinks no one's watching." Victoria's voice softened slightly. "I'm not threatening you. I'm warning you. Because I actually like you, and I'd hate to see you get caught in the crossfire." Before Natalie could respond, applause erupted from the press room. Julian was wrapping up, and from the tone of the reporters' questions, the strategy had worked. They had controlled the narrative, the board meeting confrontation, The real battle came that afternoon. Julian faced the board of directors, explaining the crisis response strategy and its financial implications. Natalie wasn't invited to the meeting, but she heard about it from Daniel afterward. "It got ugly," he said, slumping into the chair across from her desk. Richard Hammond accused Julian of emotional decision-making, said the response was too transparent, too costly. Richard Hammond was the board's most powerful member, a ruthless businessman who had clashed with Julian before. What did Julian say? That integrity isn't negotiable, that the long-term brand value outweighs short-term losses. Daniel shook his head. Hammond pushed back hard, suggested that Julian's judgment has been compromised lately, made some pointed comments about inappropriate workplace relationships. Natalie's blood ran cold. What? He didn't name names, but everyone knew what he meant. Someone's been talking. That evening, Natalie was gathering her things to leave when Julian's assistant appeared. "Mr. Westbrook needs to see you." His office. Now. She found Julian standing by his window, silhouetted against the setting sun. He didn't turn when she entered. Closed the door. She did, her heart pounding. "Daniel told me about the board meeting. Hammond is making moves against me, using us as ammunition." Julian's voice was flat, emotionless. "He's been looking for a way to push me out for years. Now he has one. This is my fault." "No." Julian finally turned. "This is my fault. I knew the risks, and I pursued this anyway. I was selfish." "You weren't selfish. You were human. Human doesn't protect you, Natalie. Human gets you destroyed in this world." He moved closer, his expression anguished. "Hammond is threatening to expose our relationship publicly. He has photos from the gala. The balcony kiss." Natalie felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. "What does he want?" "My resignation. He wants me out, and he wants his puppet installed as CEO. If I refuse, he'll release the photos and file ethics complaints. Your career will be destroyed along with mine. Then we fight him." "How?" Julian's voice cracked. "How do we fight someone willing to use any weapon? He'll paint you as someone who slept her way into the Summit Project. He'll destroy your reputation before you have a chance to defend yourself." "I don't care about my reputation. I care about you. Well, I care about you." Julian's composure shattered. "I care about you more than this company, more than this position, more than anything. Which is exactly why I can't let you go down with me." Natalie crossed the space between them and grabbed his face in her hands. "Listen to me. I am not Catherine. I am not going to disappear. I am not going to let you face this alone because you're scared of losing me." Tears shone in his eyes. "I can't do this again. I can't survive losing someone else I love. You love me?" The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. "Yes," Julian whispered. "God help me. Yes. I love you, Natalie. I've been fighting it for months, but I can't anymore. I love you." She kissed him, pouring every ounce of feeling into it. When they broke apart, she said firmly, "Then trust me. Trust us. We don't run from Hammond. We face him together." How? A plan was forming in Natalie's mind, audacious and risky. The quarterly shareholder meeting is next week. Public forum, all the major investors present. We go public first, on our terms. Julian stared at her. "You want to announce our relationship publicly?" "I want to own our truth before Hammond can weaponize it. We disclose the relationship, acknowledge it started recently, explain the steps we've taken to maintain professionalism. We remove his ammunition by being transparent." "That's insane." It's what we told the company to do with the supplier crisis. Own the truth. Control the narrative. Natalie held his gaze. "Do you trust me?" Julian was quiet for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. "Yes, I trust you." The shareholder meeting, the quarterly meeting, was held in the grand ballroom. It's packed with investors, board members, and financial analysts. Natalie sat in the audience, her heart hammering. Julian stood at the podium, concluding his quarterly report. Then he paused. "Before we move to questions, I have a personal disclosure to make." The room went silent. Richard Hammond leaned forward, a predatory smile on his face. He thought Julian was about to resign. 3 months ago, I developed feelings for someone on my team. Natalie Rivers, a consultant on the Summit project. These feelings evolved into a relationship. Julian's voice was steady, clear. I want to be transparent about this because transparency is the foundation of ethical business. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Hammond's smile faltered. Miss Rivers and I have taken steps to ensure our relationship doesn't compromise professional judgment. She's been reassigned to report directly to Victoria Cross rather than me. All her work is reviewed by independent team members. Her contributions to the Summit project are documented and merit-based. Julian paused, his eyes finding Natalie in the crowd. I'm disclosing this because I believe in practicing what we preach. When we ask our company to be transparent and accountable, that standard must start with leadership. My personal life is my own, but I will not allow it to compromise the integrity of this company. He looked directly at Hammond. If anyone on the board believes this relationship disqualifies me from leadership, I welcome that discussion. But it will be had openly, not through whispers and threats. The room erupted in noise. Reporters scrambled to take notes. Board members whispered urgently to each other. Hammond's face had gone red with fury. Then, unexpectedly, one of the major investors stood. Margaret Chen, the woman who had originally hired Natalie. I have a question for Mr. Westbrook. Yes, Mrs. Chen. In your tenure as CEO, you've increased company value by 300%, navigated multiple crises successfully, and established Westbrook Industries as an industry leader in ethical business practices. Is that correct? Yes. Then as far as I'm concerned, your personal life is irrelevant as long as you continue delivering results. I move that we proceed with the agenda. Another investor stood. I second that motion. Hammond tried to object, but he was drowned out by voices of support. The tide had turned. By being vulnerable, by owning his truth, Julian had transformed potential scandal into a demonstration of the values he preached. 6 months later, adjusted the simple diamond ring on her finger, still getting used to its weight. The rooftop garden was beautiful in the evening light, strung with fairy lights and filled with the scent of jasmine. Nervous? Julian asked, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. About marrying you? Never about making a speech in front of everyone we know? Terrified, he laughed, the sound free and genuine. So different from the closed-off man she'd met in that bathroom a year ago. You saved my company with a speech. You can handle our engagement party. That was business. This is personal. You're good at both. He kissed her temple. Besides, you have me now. We face everything together, remember? Natalie turned in his arms. I remember. How did the final board vote go? Hammond resigned. Couldn't handle being outvoted on every initiative. Julian's smile was satisfied. The new board member they appointed is actually competent. It's refreshing. And the Summit project launch exceeded projections by 40%. Turns out honesty and ethics are actually good for business. Who knew? His expression softened. Natalie, I need to tell you something. That sounds ominous. It's not. It's just he took a breath. A year ago, I was going through the motions of living, building this company because I didn't know what else to do. Then you walked into the wrong bathroom and changed everything. Natalie laughed. Still the most embarrassing moment of my life. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. You didn't just save the company. You saved me. He cupped her face gently. You reminded me what it feels like to be alive. To want something beyond the next quarter. To believe in something beyond profit margins. Julian, I love you. Not because you're brilliant at your job, though you are. Not because you see strategies others miss, though you do. I love you because you looked at a broken man and decided he was worth putting back together. Tears stung Natalie's eyes. You were never broken. You were just scared. And for the record, I love you too. Even when you're being an impossible perfectionist. Especially then. Especially then. He kissed her as the sun set over the city. The same city where their story had begun with a mistake that turned into a miracle. Below them, the party guests were gathering, waiting to celebrate their engagement. But up here, in this moment, it was just the two of them. A CEO who had learned to love again, And the woman who had accidentally walked into his life and decided to stay ready? Julian asked, offering his arm. Natalie took it, smiling. Ready. They walked into their future together, knowing that whatever challenges came, they would face them the same way they had faced everything else. With honesty, courage, and a love that had conquered every obstacle in its path. Because sometimes the best love stories begin with the wrong door and the right person, and sometimes the most unbelievable part is that it's all true.